My name is Sher Hansen, and right now I'm facing the hardest decision of my life. It's been 4 years since my father died in a terrible accident. It was just another Monday morning when everything changed. My father, Richard, was driving to work when a reckless driver hit him. He didn't survive. The ambulance couldn't save him. The worst part wasn't just losing him. It was that the person responsible was never found. I remember feeling like my world shattered in an instant, as if nothing would ever be the same again. After my father died, everything shifted. My mother, Diane, couldn't handle it. She had always been a stay-at-home mom, dedicated to taking care of us. But now, she was lost. She couldn't cook, couldn't sleep, and couldn't get out of bed. She had dedicated her whole life to my father, and with him gone, she didn't know how to keep going. I was the only one left to pick up the pieces. At 22, I thought I had my life planned, but instead, I had to be the rock for my family. With my father gone, I had to adjust my whole life. I had planned to join a consulting firm, but now that job offer seemed impossible. My mother was in no state to work, and we needed money. I took a job at a local IT company, making less than I had hoped, but it provided the overtime I needed. My sister Nicole was only 19, and she was still in college. But she didn't want to stay in school anymore. She said she wanted to become a YouTuber. I didn't know what to think, but I didn't have the energy to argue. Nicole's new dream took over her life. She started her channel, Nicole Spirit, focusing on lifestyle and motivational content. At first, it seemed harmless, but soon it consumed her. She spent all her time filming, editing, and researching, pouring her energy into it like nothing else mattered. But her success didn't come as quickly as she hoped. After months of hard work, she only had a few thousand subscribers, and the ad revenue was minimal. Despite the lack of progress, she refused to adjust her lifestyle. She kept demanding more money for beauty products, cameras, and accessories. The more Nicole demanded, the more I struggled. My salary from the IT job was not enough to cover both her expenses and the growing bills at home. I worked overtime every day, but it still wasn't enough. Nicole's need for organic food and investment in beauty treatments drained our bank account. It seemed like she had no awareness of how bad things had gotten. Each month, I watched as my savings and earnings disappeared. But I couldn't stop. I had to keep providing for them. My mother didn't help. She just kept indulging Nicole, enabling her every whim, and it hurt. I tried to reason with Nicole, asking her to be more practical. "Why not get a part-time job?" I suggested. But she wasn't hearing it. "This is my mission," she said, as if her YouTube career was the only thing that mattered. Every time I tried to bring up her unrealistic expectations, she would cry to our mother. My mother always sided with Nicole, saying she was just trying to find her path. But how could I support them both when I was barely scraping by? I was the one stuck in this impossible situation, trying to hold it all together. Things got worse when Nicole started comparing herself to other influencers. Julia Smith, a YouTuber with millions of followers, became her obsession. Nicole couldn't understand why Julia had become so successful when they started at the same time. "Why is she more successful than me?" Nicole would ask, her jealousy growing each day. It wasn't long before she started digging through Julia's videos, searching for flaws or inconsistencies. Her obsession turned dark. She began to believe Julia was hiding something, even accusing her of lying about her perfect life. Nicole became consumed with exposing her, trying to prove she wasn't as flawless as she appeared. Nicole's obsession with Julia turned into a full-blown crusade. She started posting videos criticizing Julia, pointing out minor inconsistencies in her videos, like differences in lighting or changes in set designs. At first, it seemed harmless, but the more Nicole dug, the worse it became. She made accusations, spread rumors, and even began using parts of Julia's content without permission. The attention her videos got surprised me. Views shot up, and Nicole's channel gained a new kind of traction. The more she exposed Julia, the more popular she became. But I could see it wasn't just about the views anymore. Nicole was spiraling. As Nicole's videos gained more attention, the legal threats started pouring in. Julia's lawyers sent a warning, accusing Nicole of defamation and copyright infringement. I wanted to tell Nicole to stop, to tell her this wasn't worth it, but she wouldn't listen. Instead, she took it as a sign that she was right. The more legal threats came in, the more Nicole believed she was exposing the truth. Her mental state deteriorated quickly. She stopped eating regularly, stayed up all night researching, and became obsessed with finding more dirt on Julia. I could see she was losing herself in this mission, but nothing I said could stop her. Nicole's behavior became erratic. She would burst into my room late at night, ranting about Julia's lies, unable to sleep, crying uncontrollably. The sister I had known was gone. She was consumed by jealousy, hatred, and bitterness. The more she posted, the more extreme her accusations became. She slandered Julia, calling her a fraud and telling her fans they were being deceived. It was clear that Nicole was no longer acting rationally. I was afraid for her, but I didn't know how to help. My mother, too, was blind to the danger. She believed Nicole's obsession was justified, but I knew we couldn't keep going like this. Everything came to a head when my mother suggested that we take Nicole to Hawaii. She thought that a change of scenery would help Nicole reset, but I knew better. We didn't have the money for that kind of escape. I had already given everything I could to keep us afloat, but my mother insisted. "We can figure out the money later," she said. I felt like I was being pushed aside again. My mother had already used my savings without asking. When I came home one evening, I saw a note on the fridge. My mother had taken Nicole to Hawaii, withdrawing $25,000 from my account. I was furious, betrayed, and heartbroken. It wasn't just about the money. It was the fact that I had given everything to support them, and they didn't care. My mother and sister went off to Hawaii, living in luxury, while I was left to pick up the pieces. I felt completely drained. All the hours I spent working overtime, all the sacrifices I made, seemed meaningless. I had to take control of my life again. I couldn't keep living like this, caught in this endless cycle of sacrifice. It was time to make a hard choice. I rented a small apartment, a place where I could finally have some peace. I changed my bank details, transferred my salary to the new account, and took control of my finances. I made an appointment for Nicole to see a therapist, hoping that maybe, just maybe, she could get the help she needed. I couldn't keep enabling her destructive behavior. When my mother and Nicole returned from their trip, they found an empty house. I didn't answer their calls. I couldn't. I had to let go, even if it meant breaking their hearts. The silence was deafening. My family tried to contact me. My mother cried, saying I was abandoning them. Nicole begged me not to leave her, but I knew that continuing to support them would only make things worse. I couldn't be the one to carry all their burdens anymore. I sent an email explaining my decision. I told them I would no longer support them financially. I offered to pay for Nicole's therapy if she was serious about getting better, but that was all I could do. I had to protect myself, no matter how much it hurt. After I sent the email, I blocked their calls. For the first time, I felt a sense of relief. I started focusing on myself. I worked less, started studying for a certification, and even picked up a new hobby: growing houseplants. It wasn't easy. I felt lonely at times, but there was a quiet peace in knowing that I had taken control of my life. For the first time in years, I wasn't drowning in stress. I was living for me. But that peace didn't last forever. Months later, My mother and Nicole showed up at my workplace. My mother was unrecognizable. She looked tired, worn out, and frail. Nicole had shut down her YouTube channel, and my mother had started working as a waitress. They were struggling, but I couldn't go back. I couldn't give in to their demands again. Dad would want us to be together, my mother pleaded. But I couldn't agree. My father would have wanted me to live for myself, not to sacrifice my life for them. It was the hardest decision, but I knew it was the right one. It's been 6 months since then. I've moved on with my life. I was promoted at work and found someone who truly understands me. My mother and Nicole are still rebuilding their lives, but I'm no longer a part of that. I'm learning to live for myself, without the guilt that once consumed me. Sometimes, I wonder if I made the right choice. But deep down, I know it was necessary. I am finally living the life I choose, and that is enough.